Hi guys, please may the new government not copy the disaster that is the housing crisis in Ireland. So the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner appeared on Times Radio with Adam Boulton, where she discussed a number of issues, but the target her party has set for herself was brought up. Angela has said on a number of occasions that she wants to build 1.5 million homes by the end of this Parliament. Now, while we tend to focus on the logistical problems of achieving such a feat, be it where to build the houses, local opposition, material costs, and of course a labour force that's in short supply, Adam asked Rayner a specific question which raised some red flags with me. Have a listen.
To domestic matters, you've got this very difficult target of building 1.5 million houses, or seeing that happens before the next general election. Are you on target to do that?
Yeah, it's Alan. I make no bones about it. It's a very difficult target to meet, but we're being very clear that we better meet it. The OBR gave us the highest scoring for growth, over 7.5 billion on the planning reforms that I've already enacted. I'm announcing today that we don't want people having planning permission, developers having that permission, and then not building the houses. So I've got a very clear timetable for them that when they put a planning application in, they've got to say how many houses they're going to be building, and that they have a commencement notice. So they tell us when they've commenced it, and then annually we keep them on track for how many houses they said they're going to build. And if they don't, there will be penalties for them.
I mean, they are saying that's simply more red tape, and it might actually slow down their ability to get building.
Well, I don't believe that's the case. I've put lots of measures in place to speed up planning. We've got the planning and infrastructure bill that's going through Parliament at the moment, which will streamline the planning process. The National Planning Policy Framework, which we updated, helps with planning. The nature recovery deals with some of the issues around the win-win on nature, as well as building the homes that we desperately need. And the New Homes Accelerator is already unblocking thousands of homes that were stalled on sites. So we're taken a lot of different measures which developers have welcomed, and now I'm saying that we need the spades in the ground and we need to, push forward.
How many of those 1.5 million homes are going to be social housing, i.e. available for rent at a reasonable, socially affordable price?
Well, the challenge with that is that you can't put an exact figure on, but what I've said is the biggest...
Yes, you can. You put a percentage. You say half, or you say 40%, or you say 30% of all new houses must be affordable houses. This is why it's a red flag, and this is why there's a real risk that you end up with lots of houses being built, but most people can't live in them. This is like what's happening in Ireland. In Ireland, lots of houses are being built. The Irish government keep talking about we built 40,000 new houses, or we built 50,000 new houses, or we built 30,000 new houses. But if you look at the data and you look at how many of those are affordable, it's not sufficient for the demand that's out there. So while the government may say what we're going to do, Angela Rayner's government may say what we're going to do is we're going to build 1.5 million homes. But if she's not clear about how many of those are affordable homes, then you're not dealing with the problem. You're just kicking the can down the road. Because you need to have at least a target. You need to say to developers, you can get planning permission, but you need to have a set amount aside for affordable housing. Because if you don't, then what we're going to have to do is going to find somebody else to build those houses. This is what needs to be happening. Developers don't want to build so affordable houses because they want to maximize their profit. That's why the government need to be strong on this. They need to force them, using legislation, to build a set amount of affordable houses. If they take a hit from that's part of the business. But if you don't deal with this, what you're going to end up with is millions of homes, 1.5 million homes perhaps, but not the families who desperately need homes living in them. You'll end up with maybe landlords buying them and renting them out, or you're going to have rich people, middle class people living in those homes, and the poorest in society who desperately need a home will not be able to get them.
Increase in social and affordable homes for a generation, and we've already seen the Chancellor has given us an extra £2.8 billion for the Affordable Homes Programme, which will help. It's
not about money. Yeah, money, of course, is an issue, but it's also about a target. You need to set a target, because if you don't set a target, then the developers will just build profitable homes.
Supporting social landlords, making sure that they have a rent settlement that secures their finances so that they can build more social homes that we need in this country. So we're pushing hard to get ramp up, because we know I've got 1.4 million people on the housing waiting list, and we've got to make sure we're building those homes that they desperately need.
I mean, there is a clause which permits developers to cut down the proportion of social housing in a development if they find they're not going to make a sufficiently large profit.
This is insane. So the developers can have a loophole that if they don't believe, well, I'm not going to make a significant amount of profit on the entire development if there's social housing included, then what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go ahead with this project. Now, the government can say, you need to go ahead with it. Then they'll say, well, we're not going to meet our threshold of affordable housing because it's not sufficient. It's not sufficient profit being driven from this. This is insane. The government need to step in. They need to be forceful with this. They can't allow the developers just to get away with it, because, as we know, they'll maximize profit and they'll not build enough affordable housing. The developers are not interested in providing affordable and social housing. They're only interested in profit. That's why you need the government to step in.
Shouldn't you cancel that?
Well, I've been really clear that the Section 106 notice, which is the bit that developers say how much infrastructure and social and affordable homes they're going to build on a site when they get viability and that site gets planning permission, that there's no shirking that. That is a commitment, and we expect them to follow.
Okay, we expect them to follow through. But this is the loophole. You're not saying we're going to close the loophole. You're just expecting them not to use the loophole. We're expecting them to uphold their side of the bargain, of the moral argument. No, they're developers. They're in it for profit. If they can find a way of not providing affordable housing, they're not going to do it. They're going to take advantage of that situation. They'd be stupid not to. They're business owners. They're in it for a profit.
Through on it, and we've bolstered up our team to support local authorities in making sure that when a developer says we're going to do X, Y, and Z, they do X, Y, and Z.
But they then say we're not going to make enough profit, we're not going to make 20%, and they get a get out.
Well, that's not the way I look at it. I look at it as...
No, it's not the way you look at it. That's the reality. I'm sorry to be pushing back on Angela Rayner here, but this is important, because what you're going to do is you're going to end up in a situation, if you're not forceful with these developers, if you don't enforce a target, a percentage, what they're going to do is they're going to build your 1.5 million homes, and very few people are going to be actually able to afford them. They're going to be bought by landlords and they're going to rent them out. That's not the situation you want to achieve. You want to see people buying these affordable houses. You want to see people renting them who can have a reasonable quality of life. You don't want a situation where some guy comes in and buys 50 houses. As we've seen in Ireland, this is a problem in Ireland. It's not so much small landlords, it's actual companies. It's they're called cuckoo funds. They're organizations, they're financial institutions coming in and buying up huge amounts of property and then renting it out and making a profit. And then what the government say is, well, we built 40,000 homes this year. That's not the road you want to go down. So what Angela Rayner is saying here is concerning. Now, this may change. She may realize, or the government may realize, look, we need to set a target. We need to have at least a reasonable target if we want to make sure that people get into these affordable homes. Because once again, if you allow the market to self-regulate, then they won't build any. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.